Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. So in the intro montage, I put the SC back together. And unfortunately, as you guys saw, the front ear on the intake manifold cracked during reinstallation. However, as I boost leak tested it after I got everything back together, as I made the executive game time decision to just continue reassembling this, the boost leak test showed that there are no leaks coming out of the head flange coming out of the intake manifold. So at this point in time, I'm really done screwing around with this thing, and I'm just going to send it. We'll see what happens, see if a leak presents as time goes on. But for right now, we're just going to allow that crack to be out of sight, out of mind, and continue on with this car, with getting it operational and ready to go on the road. So along the lines of roadworthiness and taking this thing out to drive, the first thing that we need to do is to bleed the brakes. I had the brake system open as I was converting to the TT front rotors and calipers, and there are no brakes at this point in time. So I need to bleed everything. I need to get everything back operational and squared away on that front. And then, as I mentioned at the end of the last video, the power steering system picked up some noise again. So we need to continue bleeding that. We need to get the power steering squared away. And then once those two items are taken care of, then the car can finally go for an alignment, and we can finally get that portion of this car's rebirth knocked out and squared away. Well, we've achieved a working braking system, and all four wheels are back on the car. The wheels still need to be torqued, but we are going to shift focus for a brief bit and build a bumper support bracket. So on SCs and Supras, they have these brackets on either side, which go through these two oval holes in the fenders. And that is what retains the sides of the bumper. So I only have one of these for the SC at this point in time, and what I'm going to do is make a second one. So I have my two bolts that will act as studs, and I have my piece of 1-inch wide strip stock that will allow me to make all of this. So it should be pretty simple. 3 holes if I feel like it, 2 for sure, and then it will just be a matter of welding these 2 bolts to whatever length the strip ends up being, and then I'll have to make some bit of that curve that you guys can see there, or I'll have to form the new piece to have a curve, something like that. So this should be pretty simple, pretty self-explanatory. So let's get to it, knock this bumper bracket out, and then the bumper can go on for good at that point in time, and we can continue getting this thing wrapped up and ready to finally go for an alignment. Well, the new bumper bracket for the SC worked out perfectly, and the front of the car is back together. What I'm going to do next is a little kind of ghetto repair to the intake manifold, or at least something so I can say that I did something to work with that crack on the front ear of the intake. So what I'm going to do is use some good old-fashioned JB weld. This is their fairly high temperature version, as you guys can see. And I'm going to epoxy that front ear of the intake manifold. Hopefully this will hold up and keep that ear attached to the rest of the manifold, at least for right now, as I'm really not in the mood and I don't feel like pulling this all back apart again and fixing that front ear when everything is sealing at least up to 20 pounds, which is what I tested the system at. I'd rather just glue it for the time being and deal with it later if I need to. So I won't be able to show a whole lot of this as the ear is tucked way down in that crevice underneath of the threaded hole that the light is focused on right now. But I'll go ahead, mix some epoxy, get it put on there and put the stud and everything back in and cinch it down so everything gets held in place. And that's going to be the best I can do right now. The JB weld has been applied to the SC's intake manifold, and I feel better now that I at least did something with the crack on that front ear. So will probably be difficult for you guys to see, but if you can see that gray bit right there to the right of the nut, that is the JB weld. So like I said, I bought the high temp JB weld, applied it, I'll let it cure for a bit, then pull the nut back off, put the washer back on, so on and so forth. And then at that point in time, the intake side will be as good as it can be. Now, I am waiting on fuel injector O-rings, as when I was reinstalling everything, if we look at these two O-rings side by side here, if you guys can see, the one on the left has a bit of an oblong section on the top side right there. I pinched one of the O-rings as I was reinstalling the fuel rail. So not enough that it prevented the car from running, but it did put a ton of fuel down on the ground. And I didn't get a great idea of if the car is running properly or anything else. I did this all off camera as I could not wait to hear what this thing sounds like and see if the mist was gone. And very quickly I noticed that there was a massive fuel leak, shut everything down, and I have injector O-rings on the way, but they won't be here today or for the next couple of days. So once those come in, then we can reassemble this car. We can finally get it operational and driving, and then take it for the alignment. And after all of these trials and tribulations and fighting with this car to get to this point, that will be a massive victory. Last night I went to my buddy Matt's place to pick out a block and a crank for the Aristo engine build, which we'll get to that in the next video. But moving back and focusing on the SC, Matt had some 11mm injector O-rings sitting around. And he was kind enough to provide me with a replacement O-ring for the one that got pinched as I was installing the fuel rail last time. So I've already gone ahead and put the O-ring back on the injector. The injectors are all in their ports. I'm going to put some grease on those O-rings so that way I don't end up in the same situation that I was in before And once this is all reassembled, we can fire the car up and see if the miss has left the building or if it still persists. The fuel rail is reinstalled and everything seems to have gone well, which I won't know for sure until I fire the car up. But there's one last thing that I want to do. It's been kind of an issue that's been nagging me with this car, and that is I want to extend the harness for the fuel pressure sensor. Now, as it is set up right now, it does reach the sensor right here, but the harness is essentially at its maximum length at that point in time. And I want to add a little bit of additional wire length to this, so that way the harness is not held taut. And since the harness is connected to the engine in a variety of different locations, if the engine moves, I don't want it to put stress on these wires and potentially end up breaking them and causing a bunch of issues. Pretty simple deal, 3 wires, a few crimp splices, some heat shrink, so on and so forth. And I'll have it looking like I was never in there by the time this is all said and done, with some real nice lume and everything else, and this will be a pretty trick little addition and little quality of life improvement. All right, everything is buttoned up on the SC, and now it's time to see, or to address the elephant in the room. Has the miss been alleviated? Have we gotten all of it mechanically sound? Is this thing truly ready to go for an alignment? And there's really only one way to tell. So let me put you guys on the tripod, and let's keep our fingers crossed that this car finally plays nice and everything is good to go, and the car is ready to go on the road. So that was a massive success. All systems are a go on the SC at this point in time. Power steering works, the brakes work. Obviously it has its new tires. I did some additional idle tuning now that the intake manifold is completely sealed up at this point in time. And from what I can tell, this thing is ready to go for its alignment. I just ordered a new set of, or new bulbs for the whole way around the car, and ordered LEDs so it'll be nice and bright and all of that. So we will get to that when they arrive tomorrow, and I still need to go and pick up my fog light housings. My painter buddy Dave, he ended up finishing up reconditioning those lower fog light housings as well, which that'll be nice to have them operational again. But I'm elated right now, and after all of the trials and tribulations and blood, sweat, and not so much tears, but definitely plenty of swear words, the SC it's ready to go back on the road at this point in time. I say that right now. That is subject to change, just knowing this car's history and how much it hates to stay in one piece and stay together. But it's good to go right now, and with the help of all of my friends, we've managed to get this thing running again, get this thing ready to drive, and it'll be really, really special to drive my first car again after a long period of latency, to put it nicely. But she's alive again, she's ready to drive, and I can't wait to get it out on the road. Well, I've ran into another small mechanical issue that I need to sort out on the SC. And that is the passenger rear brake caliper. So I bled all of the brakes, everything was working fine, but I noticed a small puddle of brake fluid on the ground on that passenger rear corner. And after a little bit of investigation, I was able to determine that it was coming from the brake bleeder port. So if you guys aren't familiar with brake bleeders and kind of their construction, if you see on this bottom little plug right here, it has kind of a conical tapered insert, or conical tapered piece to it. And that corresponds with a conical tapered bore on the bottom side of the bleeder hole. And I believe the issue that I'm running into is that conical tapered bore on the bottom of the hole is no longer conical and tapered in the correct manner. And I was a little bit suspicious of this, as you can see how much play there is with that bleeder. And granted, the farther down that it gets, the less wiggle there is. But between trying multiple bleeders, trying every little trick that I had up my sleeve, I was not able to get it to stop leaking. And it would make sense to try to apply some thread sealant or some thread tape or something like that until you sit and think about how a bleeder actually seals. The way that it works, it's similar to an AN fitting, where the two tapered pieces, the male and the female side of it, those smash together, and the precision of the machining on those two bits is what actually causes the seal to happen. So putting thread tape or thread sealant into play wouldn't really do anything, because the threads are not what seal the bleeder. All that would equate to is just some tape or some sealant on the bleeder, and fluid, rather than coming around the threads, would be coming out of the bleeder hole itself. So, short story long, I need to replace the caliper. The new caliper is down at the parts store, so I'm going to go and grab that, come back, put some paint on it, get it on the car, re-bleed, and then hopefully at that point in time, all of the brake system, or all the braking system woes are in the past and in the rear view mirror at that point in time, and the car will be truly mechanically sound then. Well, I got a little bit carried away with cleaning today, and now the SC is spit shined to the best of my abilities. Now, this was quite literally an example of polishing a turd, as you guys I'm sure have noticed that the paint is very bad on this car. There's almost no clear left on the bumper. Every single panel that does still have clear coat is scratched and scuffed and everything else. And the car is in desperate need of a paint job. But the car has been neglected for such a long period of time that I thought the least that I could do for it is to pretty it up, polish it up, and make it look as nice as it can. So with that being said, and now that everything mechanically appears to be sorted, the car is cleaned, and for what I can tell, it's ready to go to the alignment shop. I figure it would be a good thing to do to take the car back out for a little test drive, since the intake manifold is sealed now, and a few other changes have been made to make sure that the cruising tune is sufficient for this car going down the road and making it over to the tire shop under its own power. Well, as I started going down the road, a few raindrops hit the windshield, and I made it back just in time before it actually started raining. So if the car was not on Mickey radials, I wouldn't care so much about that, but I'm not trying to crash the car on a simple test drive. That doesn't make much sense. So I'll end up having to take a log on my way over to the tire shop tomorrow, and I can sit and make changes while I'm waiting for the alignment to happen. I was able to do a little part throttle, like transient pull essentially, to get a little bit of data, and I've made some alterations to the tune based upon that information. Well, today is alignment day, and the conditions are not the most ideal, but I sat and thought about it a little bit last night, as I knew it was going to be wet out, and I came to the conclusion that I need to stop being a wuss, as the tires, these Mickeys, you guys can see, they have actually quite a bit of siping to them. And if you guys are familiar with tires, the siping is the water dispersal method, or the water dispersal system of a tire. That is what sheds water, that's what allows the car to not hydroplane. And short story long, these tires have enough where I feel at least reasonably confident and reasonably comfortable to take the car down to get the alignment. So with it being wet out and there being more rain on the horizon, we're not going to be doing any pulls or anything like that, but I can at least get it over to the alignment shop, get it aligned, and have it ready for dry weather and the opportunity to actually go out and start making hits and street tuning it. So I'm already running late, so without further ado, let's go ahead, get in the car, get over there, and get this thing aligned. what a day it has been. I'm almost at a loss for words. This was amazing. And to be able to finally take the SC out for a drive, for an alignment, for all the things that I've talked about on here for a long period of time. It is amazing to have this car operational and ready to go out and drive anywhere at any point in time at this point in time. Now, the car has a few things I need to work on. The brakes need to be bled additionally. And if you guys noticed, I swapped the lights over to LEDs. And I did a little bit of rewiring on the front of the car. And what I did is I wired the fog lights into these side marker lights right here. So I went with the traditional Lexus light setup, yellow fogs, bluish headlights and high beams. But the issue that I'm running into is as I rewired the fog lights, I made something unhappy as the turn signals now don't flash. That will be an easy enough thing to fix, even if I have to wire in a couple of new flasher relays, but that isn't a big deal, and that's something that I can do probably off camera, not that exciting, and I'll be able to get that squared away, the lights operating the way that they should, and then the car will be electrically sound at that point in time, and I'll get the brakes and a couple other little mechanical things squared away as well. This car has been a great example and a great lesson in overcoming adversity and working through problems. This car's MO is fighting every step of the way. And throughout the course of this resurrection process, that played out more times than I can count. Between the intake manifold, all of the wiring stuff, putting everything together, building the parts for it, there have been roadblocks and speed bumps and everything else pretty much the entire step, or every step of the way, through the entire process. But as irritating and cumbersome as those impediments can be at different points in time, trust me when I say, just power through them, work through them, gain the knowledge of how to fix them, gain the knowledge of how the car works that much more, and at the end of the day, when you can finally put the key in the ignition and take the car down the road, especially for the first time, it's a magical experience and something that is worth all of the trials, tribulations, frustration, blood, sweat, tears, curse words, and everything else that goes into these projects. The reason that we do this is to enjoy these amazing mechanical devices. And to finally be able to do that, I can only speak for myself here, but for me it makes all of the effort and the work worth it. So at this point in time, minus the few little additional modifications and renditions that I mentioned that I want to do to the car, we can essentially call it done at this point in time. That's a pretty incredible feeling. Now, I'll continue tuning, I'll continue turning the car up, and continue refining it as time goes on. But we are going to be limited with the amount of power this car can make. It's still on factory main caps, and that light bulb went off in my head as I was thinking about it today. And the factory main caps in these cars are kind of a big limiting factor of how much power you can make. Now, I see people talk about something over 1,000 horsepower or somewhere around that area that you don't want to rely on factory mains anymore. And this car won't make that much power. But with all the downtime this car has seen, and with how long it's taken to get it operational again, I don't want to blow it up. So we'll take it a little bit easy and see where I can safely end up power-wise. But regardless of what it makes, it's going to be a lot of fun. It already is a lot of fun. And as more boost is added to the equation, it's going to feel that much more incredible and be that much greater to operate and to enjoy. So with all of that being said, and a really incredible day, an incredible conclusion to this huge, massive SC300 rebirth project that's been ongoing for I don't even know how long at this point in time. I think that'll be about the end of this one. So we still have a lot to look forward to with the SC. Now that it's running and driving, being able to go out and enjoy it, and most importantly, and what I'm the most excited about, to learn more about the Haltech system, to learn more about tuning, to continue dialing in and refining the car, and turning it into the great street car that it always should have been. Now, I'll continue filming this car, continue making progress with it, and by no means is the car disappearing off of the channel at this point in time. But the focus is going to shift. And as I've been talking about for, again, I don't even know how long at this point in time, the next big project is the Aristo. And this one, haven't been this excited about a project in a very long time. The first big thing that needs to happen with it is the engine build. And we're not going to install the built engine immediately, but I am going to put together a built engine for it, and I'll take you guys along on that journey with me. There's already been some things that have happened in the background for it, as evidenced by this pile of parts right here, which we'll get into in the next video. I have some aftermarket boxes here as well that I've been hiding from you guys, but we'll dive into all of that and kind of a breakdown of what my plans are for the engine build and what's going to happen with that in the very near future. Beyond the Aristo and the SC, we have the Supras. And the Mark IV is going to be kind of put off to the side for the time being. I know that may seem a little bit undesirable or a little bit ridiculous, but it's for a good cause. My mother is getting her other knee replaced this upcoming Thursday from when I'm filming this right now. And that's going to take the majority of my attention. And I won't have the time, at least for some period of time immediately after the surgery, to really focus a whole lot of effort on this car. As the next thing that needs to happen with it, or next things rather, are A, I need to program the fuel sending unit in the Haltech dash, and B, the big next thing for it is to get the car to the dyno. Now, I won't be able to do that right away. Like I said, with her knee surgery, I need to be here, and I need to be here for her. So we will get to that car and get to the dyno and everything else in due time, as quickly as we can, but right now the car needs to sit on the sidelines for a little bit longer. But what can happen is we can finally get the Mark II squared away, and I can get the issue with the crank and cam triggers and the RPM readout and the Holley ECU that car is on. Can get that squared away with the help of my buddy Bob. That'll be upcoming for me in the next week or two, hopefully, and we'll go over it on video, or in an upcoming video whenever that happens. So there's all kinds of cool stuff going on, and like I said, the Aristo engine build, cannot wait for it, and with having at least the majority of the parts here at this point in time, that'll be the next big thing. But at this point, I think I have ran my mouth for long enough. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and wrap this up. So thank you guys, as always, for coming along on all of these different journeys and all of these different adventures with me. With more or less the conclusion, at least of this iteration of the SC, I hope that you guys have enjoyed this project and the process of putting it together and turning it into what it is today. It's a car that's very special to me, that has a ton of sentimental value, and is something that I am elated to finally be able to enjoy again. But we'll have more on that in the upcoming videos in the upcoming future. For right now, I really need to stop running my mouth. So, as always, be sure to subscribe, leave a like, leave a comment, check out the website for manifolds, for merch, for all things good that way, including my MCB collection. I have a number of different apparel and accessory items available as part of the MCB collection, one of which is this beanie that I'm wearing right now. So if you like the beanie, or if you check in the description below the MCB collection link, if you see anything there that speaks to you, please feel free to order anything and add it to your collection. And if nothing there does speak to you, that's all right as well. Hopefully I offer something in the future that does and that you would like to add to your collection. But with all of that being said, that will be the end of this one, and I will see you guys in the next episode.